Alrighty, hi there, my name is Laura Ahlin, and this is my Philosophy of Education review as well as my ISTE Standards for Educators review for my ETC 447 class here at Northern Arizona University. And to start out with, I just wanted to give a brief discussion on my philosophy of education. So at the beginning of this semester, I wrote about how I didn't have a huge technology integration during my schooling experience, but I still wanted a huge technology integration from my classroom. And a huge influence of that was a review of mobile learning technology integration models, frameworks, and theories that I read at the beginning of the semester that really highlights how much it's important to show students that the technology is available and accessible. And this semester did nothing but honestly support that idea that I read in that article. Because without that idea of smart boards, Google Earth, 3D printers, and different 360 cameras, showing how that technology is available can really change a student's educational experience and allow them to explore the world in a different way. And I don't want to stop my students from creating those authentic learning experiences. So these ISTE standards for educators I'm about to talk about really highlight those and really showcase how much it's important for students to get that, because there's so much technology out there. It's just a matter of finding the technology that's right for you and right for your students. And I want to go over that here in my ISTE Standards for Educators about how I can help my students really recognize that technology and show how it is available and accessible to them today. Let's get started. Alrighty, here's ISTE Standards for Educators number 1, and this is going to be our learner, and this is really focusing on teachers going out and seeking those learning experiences to bring them back into the classroom and really helping students improve their learning at the end of the day. And so something I would do as an educator is I would constantly seek out professional development opportunities that really focused on technology that could help my students further their learning and give them new ideas and new ways to look at different things, especially when we're looking into technology and seeing the space and time and just the earth in general, especially when we can't visit things because of COVID. And so that kind of ties into always seeking out ways to help my students learn and help myself learn as an educator as well. Alrighty, so now we're on to ISTE Standards for Educators number 2, which is going to be our leader standard, and this is really focusing on being a leader in the classroom and making sure that you're also teaching your students to be those leaders and looking for opportunities for leadership, especially within technology, and really advocating for that equitable access, because not all students, even with technology, have that equitable access to it. So really being an advocate for your students in that sense. And as an educator, I'd really advocate for that equitable access, especially because as a special and elementary education major, that's something that's huge, and I want to make sure all my students have that access in order to achieve their goals and achieve the learning desires that they have. And this can be from anywhere of advocating to make sure that they have technology on them at all times, making sure there's closed captioning, and also teaching my students to advocate for themselves in that. And that's kind of what goes on to being that leader and showing your students that they can also be that leader for themselves. Alrighty, so now we're on to ISTE Standard for Educators number 3, and this one's focusing on citizens. So it's focusing on helping your students become better citizens with technology as well as contributing to the digital world. And so something I would do for my students is I would make sure I'm creating an experience where they have an opportunity to upload their creations to the digital world, whether this be making a YouTube video, kind of what I'm doing right now, and being able to share what they learned to the world, or even creating a PowerPoint presentation that can be shared for other students to learn from. And this kind of teaches students how to be responsible citizens, and also with all of the technology laws as well, and it teaches them kind of in retrospect how to contribute to a digital. Alrighty, now we're on to ISTE Standards for Educators number 4, which is going to be collaborators. And this one solely focuses on collaborating with your colleagues as well as your students to bring those authentic technology experiences into your classroom, as well as finding ways to integrate technology. So something I would do is whenever we have PLCs every week, asking my fellow educators ways that we can bring technology into our classroom that week, as well as experts we could ask. And this is just collaborating on different ways that we can bring technology into our classroom, allowing for those authentic technological experiences for our students. Alrighty, this is ISTE Standards for Educators number 5, which is going to be our designer standard. And this is really making sure that our education is being designed to the students' needs and what the students can do in their variability. And so this is really making sure you're designing those authentic learning activities for your students to participate in that are really focusing on what they can do. And this is what I would do in my classroom. As a special and elementary education major, I would really make sure in my classroom specifically, I would make sure I would design those experiences tailored to their needs and use apps that also tailor their educational experiences to their needs, whether this be Lexia, Dreambox Math, or even Autismo for students with autism. And this allows the learning experiences to be authentic to them and help them with what they need, not what everyone needs. Alrighty, now we have our ISTE Standards for Educators number 6, which is going to be our facilitator. And this really focuses on the teacher being the facilitator role, not the teacher role, allowing students to go out and reach the learning outcomes that they want to reach rather than not those set by the teacher. And so something that you can really do for your students is really foster that culture where students are taking initiative in their learning as well as self-empowerment. And that can be done any way of giving your students a simple task and saying, take this as far along as you want to take it. And that fosters that culture of students being able to reach the goals that they set for themselves, especially when it comes to coding. Some students don't want to learn to code, some students really want to, so giving them the opportunity to grow to their fullest potential rather than telling them you have to make it this far. Alrighty, now we're on to ISTE Standard for Educators number 7, which is going to be the analyst, and this really focuses on providing students different ways to reflect on their learning using technology, as well as giving students different options for their formative and summative assessments on content standards. And something I would use in my classroom is this awesome app that my classmate Shawnee showed us at one point in the semester. It's called Seesaw, and Seesaw allows for students to upload their work, and then the teacher provides feedback for the students right there, whether it's a note or a recorded voice. And this is something that I would use in my classroom, as it provides the students a way to still do the homework on paper or even with technology, but then I can provide that instant feedback and the data is saved in there for me, so I know what students understand and what they don't understand.